details with house fires and just typical stuff that happens with the cold. Any questions you guys have for me? That's roughly what it is. Let me see. Total for what was done for the city was 497,000 in damage during that time due to all the different fires citywide.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you carry statistics on how many medical emergencies you respond to?
Yes, I'm sure they can print that out, and that's something I can definitely get. I don't have that with me right here, but I can definitely send an email and be able to get that from downtown.
That would be helpful, especially for Station 17.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Any other questions or anything I can help you with?
Hey, Chief Gresham, do you have any more details on any of the 3 fires in the 4th District?
Details that I have here on one of the house fires, it was at 2313 South Leak Crest. It was an electrical issue in the subfloor space of the kitchen. The one on South Gordon, which was in the 3200 block. What I have here is extensive fire damage in south bedroom. Had that extended all the way out to the front door. And then there was the one at 401 South All Hollows, and it was miscellaneous electrical fire inside the garage. So it's probably just an overload that overloaded the wires in the garage. That's the info that I actually have. I don't make it out west usually on house fires too often. It's usually our battalion downtown that goes out west with the battalion 2 out west. But as I said, I'm filling in so that we could get you the information. And then, like I said, I can take any other questions because I'll look into the medical emergency and let my deputy chief know that you guys would like that info too.
You don't have any information on any more information about arriving units on the South Leak Crest fire?
No, I do not have any information on that. I didn't know there was any kind of question on that though, but I can definitely get more of that for you.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what the response units were, which units arrived first and their response times to those.
Okay.
I actually happen to know that fortunately Engine 17 was in station that day, and I know they were first on scene. However, I know Truck 2 was the first truck company on scene, and even though it's on the west side, that truck arrived before Truck 4, which this whole pilot program is about taking Squad 17 away so that Truck 4 can have 4 people.
Okay.
And yet we have a squad that could have been more useful on scene than it seems Truck 2 or Truck 4 being the second arriving truck company. So yeah, I'd like to see the response times on the units arriving on the South Leak Crest fire.
I can get those.
I do commend all the crews that were on scene. I know they did a good job about containing and mitigating that fire. So well done to all those personnel.
Okay. Yes, I can definitely get that. I'm assuming, do you just want it sent to your council member and then have him send it down to you, or how would you like me to get you that information?
That'll be fine. That'll be fine. That'd be a great way. I've also got an email I think that's going to go out tonight that's kind of been discussing the pilot program that I think it could be responded to that too if the powers that be see fit.
Okay.
That.
Not a problem. I can get that done.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Any other questions that I can help with or anything? All right. Well, I will get to sending some emails so I can get that information all together for you and get it sent to you.
Thanks, Chief Gresham.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Anyone from Patrol West, Patrol South on to give us a police report?
I'm Officer Seth Creighton. I'm from Patrol South. I don't see anyone on from Patrol West tonight.
Okay.
The biggest thing I wanted to talk about tonight was something I think we've heard about in the past is catalytic converter thefts and auto thefts. In my area, that's mainly what's been causing me headaches. I am happy to report that I did work with U-Haul on South Seneca, who was really taking a beating, not just on Patrol South, but really all over town. And they've agreed to start hiring some private security to monitor their lots at night. May not seem much, but I'm hoping a little bit of extra patrol there from someone designated to be there, besides just counting on us when we can win or if we can get by there. May deter some of the traffic moving through there. Most of their parking lots are wide open, and we talked in detail about them trying to get some fencing or some gates that could be maybe utilize a passcode, but that's not something they're willing to do right now at the time. So we're hoping it's a step in the right direction to try to cut some of this down. The time will tell. So really that's all I got. Auto thefts are a little bit up, which is, typical this time of year, but they are higher than I'd like to see. I know around my area, I've had some taken and some dropped off. So that's something that I'm dealing with right now. Other than that, that's really all I got to speak about. We were talking earlier about the catalytic converters and what they look like and how they work. So I think someone mentioned that they thought they were kind of small. They're not really big like you might think as a muffler. They are smaller than that, but they do differ on different types of vehicles. I can tell you the reason why U-Haul is getting hit so bad is, one, they can get under them big box trucks really easy. Those are also typically more expensive, and they get more out of them. There is going to be a meeting tomorrow about trying to get this cut down citywide with some detectives and a big group, so we can actually try to involve the metal recycling places that we know these are going to. If you don't know, they basically have a precious metal inside of them that when broken down, I think it's maybe even turned into a powder or something, is what makes these things so valuable. And they're almost impossible to track. U-Haul's even tried to weld cages around theirs or stamp their name, but once they're gone, these folks that are doing it and are good at it can get them off your vehicle in less than 10 minutes. So it's definitely something we're trying to curtail. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Do you have an estimate? This is Becky Robertson. Do you have an estimate of what kind of cost this is, to the city, both in terms of the damage to the vehicles, but also in terms of, police force and.
Well, I don't for police force. And I'll tell you, most of these reports are going by phone. So, like when I come in Monday and go over my weekly reports, that's when I may find out about it. Very rarely is an officer responding to the actual report. And I'll just use U-Haul as an example because I've spent a lot of time with U-Haul. For them, on their newer Ford 26-foot box trucks, the catalytic converter part alone is $1,500. And then they send it down to Bill's American Muffler, and he roughly charges them $500 and some dollars. So it's about a $2,000 bill for them for just that truck. I can tell you that when I was out there last meeting with them, they had one of their storage units full, not full, but with several brand new catalytic converters just waiting to be put on trucks that are either without them right now and just need to come into the shop. At one point, I think they had 77 trucks down in the city. And that's not just from cat thefts, but it's a majority of them. And they're also getting in, punching the ignition. So that's why we've tried to work really close with them to see what we can do. Cause we can't just keep chasing the report. We need to try to be proactive, that we need their help. So we're hoping that, hiring these security will help curtail some of that. And like I said, time will tell. We had it on the table, or at least we discussed them hiring the Wichita Police Department again. I don't think they wanted to pay for that, so they elected to go with a private security company. And the fencing idea was shut down pretty quick. So, and I get it; it's expensive, but so is replacing those things vehicle after vehicle after vehicle. And you'll know if you ever see a moving truck of any kind or that size come down the street and it's really, really loud, it doesn't have a cat on it. And then, they were sending some of them out like that because they had to get them rented. Any other?
Any other questions? All righty. Thank you, officer.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Me too. Did anyone from Patrol West jump on in the meantime? Okay. If no one else from police has jumped on to give us a report, then we will move on to the library report. Is Robin on with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Robin.
Hear me all right?
Now, a little weak on my end. I'm not sure what everybody else thinks.
Okay, I'll speak up.
There you go. It's getting a little louder, whatever you did there.
Okay. All right, so the checkout numbers for Alfred for February were 2,579 items. We don't have a attendance count because we are still doing curbside and drive-up service only. But our big announcement I have tonight, and you are among the first to hear it, is that we are going to open all of the library locations to in-person services next Monday, March the 8th. Yes, and a lot of times the second big question we get is if the shelves will be open and will they be able to browse? And yes, that will also be the case. We'll have regular hours in effect. The services that we will offer are the customers can browse the shelves. We'll have public computers available at most locations. The print copy and fax service will be available inside. Customers with mobile devices can use Wi-Fi service at designated tables inside the locations. Customers can use self-check for the no contact borrowing, where we have those self-check stations, which is Alfred's got one self-check station. Curbside and drive-up window service will still be available for ADA accommodation. Virtual programs will still be offered and will require registration. Test proctoring is available in a remote and virtual format. Book a librarian technology help. So this is a one-on-one tech appointment. It's available only at the Advanced Learning Library, and the Research Pavilion at the Advanced Learning Library will be available by appointment only. The following services won't be available at this time, but we hope to reinstate them in the near future. So that's the collaboration rooms and our meeting rooms. We are still going to continue the 24-hour quarantine of all returned library materials. So that's one of the reasons the meeting rooms won't be available. Let's see, room rentals. We aren't accepting book donations for now. All of our lounging furniture are going to be removed from the floors. And the Friends of the Library bookstore is going to remain closed, and so is Reverie Coffee Roasters. Those are both down at Advanced Learning Library. So but they'll be updating that all at the wichita.gov site /COVID-19. And so the library is excited to announce the launch of its new podcast, Read, Return, Repeat, coming this month. The podcast brings you in-depth literary interviews with special guests, as well as reading recommendation for each Read ICT category. If you don't know, the Read ICT Reading Challenge is a reading challenge for adults to read 12 books from 12 categories in 12 months. So you can learn more about the challenge and the podcast at our website. Virtual programming will continue this month. The registration is required and they're all held via Zoom. Once you register, you'll get a Zoom link and login information the day before the program. So this month we've got public art engaging your community on Saturday, March 20th at 10:30 to 11:30. We've got Wichita Genealogical Society will present DNA for genealogy clusters on Saturday, March 20th from 1 to 3. And our Tuesday topics, public health in Sedgwick County from noon to 1 on Tuesday, March 23rd. We'll host Pete Meinster of the Sedgwick County Commission and Philip Brownlee from the Medical Society of Sedgwick County. And then our final one, the Spring Gardening Series is back virtually this year. This was a program that Alfred would host in the spring. We'd get a huge turnout. On a weekly basis, we have master gardeners come from the K-State Research and Extension Office. But unfortunately, we still have to do the virtual format this year. Begins on March 25th and runs for 5 weeks, 6 to 7:30 on Zoom. And then you can register for that on our website. Any questions?
Questions for Robin?
So we don't know when we'll get our meeting room back, is that?
No, hopefully it's soon, but we're having to use it to store the lounging furniture. It's kind of we're opening to have the grab and go concept so that people can come in and choose their things, use the holds or the self-checkout. But we're not really encouraging groups of people to come meet at the library just for right now, because we're still emphasizing that social distancing.
Right.
And so the mask policy is still in place, just like everywhere else. But yeah, we're hoping soon. Having the stacks open is going to be a big deal to a lot of people. And then also the public computing that, someone that doesn't have internet or computer access or printing at home, they've really been missing that. So we're happy to bring that back up.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If a person wanted to do research, not necessarily, I guess the genealogical research in the area is the same as old newspapers at the downtown library. Is that going to be open too?
So it's open by appointment.
Okay.
But yeah, that's in the research pavilion. And it's on the second floor. It's the local history and the genealogy. So, and I think the hours are going to be pretty flexible, I think. It's 10 to 5 during the week. And Saturdays, it's a little shorter, like 2 to 6.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Robin, I appreciate the update. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Okay. So we are done with staff reports tonight and on to the public agenda. So first item on the first scheduled item on the public agenda is Mr. Chris Stark, who's going to give us an update on the butterfly garden at Palmy Prairie Park. Mr. Stark.
Oh, well, that's something that I'm actually kind of going to switch gears here a little bit on the garden. Well, first of all, I guess I will. So I've been chatting with David McGuire and Crystal Dollinger of the Wichita region of the Kansas Native Plant Society. about my future involvement with the park, and this will be my last spring actually taking care of it. I have so many things going on here at home I would really like to get out of the way. And I want to thank everyone for the support these last 4 or 5 years. Kind of want to do more things at home in the neighborhood, which is why I become more active with Bike Walk Wichita.
Okay, Chris, so if I understand you correctly, you're just giving us a short farewell and you're all done?
Short farewell. I'm selling off into the sunset.
Okay. fair enough.
Retiring, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. Well, appreciate everything you've done out there. As someone who lives nearby the park, we enjoy everything out there. So appreciate it. Hope you get some of your honeydews done there. And thanks very much.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for everything you've done out there. I was actually just out the park about an hour ago doing a walk, and hopefully we can get some other stewards of the park to step up and take care of things like you have. So appreciate everything you've done for us. Thank you very much.
David McGuire said that they're going to keep my little project going, and the Kansas Native Plant Society is possibly taking over for me. They have all the people who can take care of it more than I can. So, but it's in good hands. I've made sure of that. No, I also want to really quick. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I also want to talk about the places for people concept. As I think it's really important that the Wichita do this to improve our neighborhoods, and I hope that City Council adopts it and make a little bit of progress.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think past this, we've got off agenda items. So if there is any individual present that did not request to speak on the public agenda ahead of time, you may speak at this time. If someone has something, just announce yourself here with your name, or raise your hand, wave your hand at us. Okay, I will take that silence as a lack of any off-agenda items. So we will move on to new business. And first item on new business, Parks and Recs Athletic Court CIP presentation. And I see Mr. Hoopner's name over there on the side of the screen somewhere. So when you are ready, sir, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Michael. Rebecca, I had this ready to go put up, but I see you've got it. So I'll just let you click through the slides, I guess. But thank you for this opportunity to present to you the 2021 Athletic Court System Capital Improvement Program. We have gone through our inventory of courts throughout the city and prioritized and looked at these citywide to determine which courts need to be addressed, how they need to be addressed, and also as part of that program to engage the community. Of course, being the DABS this evening, this presentation will be presented at all 6 districts. But as it relates to District 4 here, I think it's important to know that we're actually going to be working on one of your projects there in Osage Park. So with that, just go to the next slide. Currently, we have 71 tennis courts. 16 of these are at the Ralph Walls Tennis Center. That's the Riverside Tennis Center downtown. We're in the middle of a renovation. I'll talk to you a little bit about that later. 40 basketball, multi-use courts. Not all of these are full-sized. 38 sand volleyball, 19 outdoor pickleball courts, 9 of which will be at the tennis center. Riverside Tennis Center. And then we got 3 tetherball courts, 3 futsal, 2 tennis practice walls, and 1 shuffleball court. Next slide. So if you look at our the park CIP, each year from 21 through 2030, we have $225,000 annually. That's 2.25 million over that period of time. If you did the math, that averages out to about $17,000 per court. We have a lot of courts, but the good news is a lot of those courts will not need additional work. We've made some progress over the years. I think good, going with good standards with post-tension courts. And so those are lasting, and we're kind of catching up here. So, and then there's other courts in the system that just, quite frankly, need to be removed and replaced. Next slide. Oh, sorry, I see you there. So this kind of gives you a sense of the cost of courts. If you go in and you look at doing a double court post-tension system, for instance, just for a futsal court, which is a highly specialized type court, that's about $160,000 for the 1 court. And that's because there's a special kind of netting that we utilize that's long lasting for the goals and such. That's the highest end. For 1 single court, tennis court, or double pickleball, you're looking about $75,000, $70,000 for a post-tension basketball, almost the same cost. For a concrete slab basketball court, that's not post-tension, that's about $60,000. And if you get into doing a temporary crack repair, resurfacing, saving an existing asphalt court, you may only get 1 to 2 years out of that. You're looking at about $10,000 to $15,000. So obviously you can see there, that's not probably the best course of action in terms of longevity. Next slide. So one of the things that we recognize really quickly here is that, we're really focusing on our courts. In the past, we've been able to look at some of our court lighting, but with the kind of funding that we have, it's really lower priority because it's very expensive to light courts. You're going to spend $40,000 to $50,000 for a good quality lighting system. And just to give you a better sense of that, I don't know who might be aware, but we have a very nice sports complex in the northeast side of town now called Stryker Sports. We have a bunch of outdoor soccer fields. We have an indoor facility, but just to do that complex was 1.5 million. So our focus was really to focus on the courts. But if we do put the lighting in, we really focus on getting the best quality possible, and those are expensive. So here's what we've been up to lately. Harrison Park, we just finished earlier in the presentation. You saw a project that was under construction. That was Harrison. It was a combination tennis and futsal court. And I don't know if you know what futsal is, but futsal is kind of a compressed version of a soccer game. It's a soccer game within a tennis court. Dimensional, enclosed fenced area. So that was recently completed about a year ago. Harrison basketball court was just completed probably within the last few months. Sherwood Glen basketball, that's up in District 6. That's just a half basketball court with pickleball striping, kind of a postage stamp compared to some of these other ones. Evergreen Park, we went in and with our staff, we had an existing tennis court and we converted that to a futsal court. And then West Meadows Park out in District 5, we did have an asphalt court there that we repaired and resurfaced. Next slide. So currently we're in the middle of a very nice project. The tennis center downtown, Riverside Tennis Center, will have 13 tennis courts that'll be replaced and or resurfaced. This includes 3 additional tennis courts, 6 new pickleball courts. This includes additional lighting and a shade seating plaza area that will be nice for courts 4 and 5. Includes all the surfacing and striping. And this was done with the $1.5 million CIP funding. We also received a very nice $400,000 grant from the Mo Conley Foundation. Currently, projects under design, they include Osage Park, which is in District 4. We went out and did some surveying within the community and determined through that survey that there is an existing double tennis court there now. Of course, pickleball has taken off, very popular, as you all know. And so instead of going back with the 2 tennis courts, we're going to go back with a tennis court and a single tennis court with 2 pickleball courts. So we'll be offering pickleball in Osage Park. And then Spruce Park and Pyatt Park, those are in District 1. These parks have been needing new basketball courts for a long time. So those will get done this year. Minor inventory adjustment, we did look at Southview Park and we decided to, that one's in very poor condition. It was determined that we'd go ahead and take that one out of the inventory, return it to green space based on the survey results. Next slide. So when we look at these courts, we're looking at them from a lot of different perspectives. First off, we're looking at what the size and classification is per the pros plan. You know, we've had parks all the way up to regional park size, all the way down to very small neighborhood parks. So that's one part of the rating system. Of course, the court material, is it asphalt or concrete? Typically, our asphalt courts are really the problem childs out there. The court cracking, what's the number of cracks? How large are they? You know, crack size and severity. What's the condition of the nets and the post? The condition of the marking and the striping. And then we also try to field complaints that come from the public. If we get some people calling in and saying, hey, you know, what's going on with this? We try to make a note of that, and we keep track of that as well. So, and then last but not least, we try to monitor if there's a request for new or other courts in their district. The other part of this is community engagement, and that's what we're doing tonight. Trying to inform each district as to what our plan is, how that's affecting each of their districts. In this case, you have one that's going to be, you know, a brand new court system down at Osage. We do public surveys if they're warranted. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. And then any kind of local group input, you know, you have the DAB, but then you also have the neighborhood associations, and those kind of vary from case to case. We have this in the parks where we're looking at it from 2 different perspectives. In most of the parks, it's just free play. These are area parks within your community and your neighborhoods. And then we have the programmable courts like Riverside Tennis, Edgemore, and McAdams. And that's where the city's actually renting those courts, leasing those courts for revenue, tournaments, and that sort of thing. And so last but not least here, we try to, when we're looking at these courts, you know, it's not all about just putting in new courts in the system, but let's be smart from a business perspective. If there's a court that needs to be taken out and it's not needed there, and it's being utilized by adding courts in a different part of the district, you know, let's try to reduce our maintenance overall because our resources are somewhat limited. So this gives you a snapshot of the 10 courts that are worst based on our assessment. Basketball, you got Boston, Cessna, East, Columbine, Country Acres, Emory, Harvest, Murdoch, and Plainview. And then on the tennis side of things, you've got Country Acres and Sycamore. Both of those tennis courts we're looking at very strongly about potentially taking those out of the system, or we're still trying to determine what the fate of those courts are, but these are the ones that we plan to address next. In 2021, we're focusing our efforts on replacing asphalt basketball courts. And then in 21 also, we should be able to focus our efforts for accommodating the 3 courts you see here. Boston, Harvest, and Plainview are the next on the list that we would like to address in terms of basketball. We've done a lot of stuff with the tennis, so it's all again about balancing between the basketball and the tennis court inventory. And again, here I mentioned earlier, we're still assessing what to do with Country Acres and Sycamore. Expansion of programmable courts. This May, we look to complete the Riverside Tennis Center. This was really going to allow us to have larger tennis tournaments. In the past, we've not been able to do some of the USTA tournaments, and by adding this to our inventory, this should really increase our ability to increase revenues at that facility. We had 3 pickleball courts at that facility. Now we're going to have 9, and they'll be lit. So that's a nice, going to be a very nice asset down there at Riverside. Edgemore and McAdams, again, these are part of the system in terms of doing revenue. We attract these out of town tournaments. We need as many courts as we can to be competitive. And so at Edgemore, we're wanting 6 tennis and 6 pickleball. McAdams will have 6 adult courts and 2 youth courts that could be rehabilitated to attract larger tournaments. Again, it's just about increasing revenue for these tournaments. And with that, that's kind of ends the presentation. I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Larry on what we just watched?
I have a question, Larry.
Sure.
When was Osage slated to have their pickleball courts?
So Osage is under design, so we hope to go out for bids this year. And
So probably install
ideally, we could
this
get
year.
it built this year.
Okay.
Hey, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. What's the cost of renovating one of these old courts versus building a new one?
Yeah, so it's costing anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 a court if we just go and do kind of your crack repair, method of repair and surfacing. The problem with those are, and we've done a couple of them, but we try not to because they, quite frankly, they just don't last very long. We did that at Riverside Tennis and to buy some time, and it was just a couple years later and those cracks reappeared, and the fiberglass patching was breaking, and it was affecting play. And it's like we just spent a bunch of money, it seemed like, to fix these, and then all of a sudden you're back to almost square one. So we don't recommend doing that, but sometimes there's exceptions to the rule.
I mean, is it 75%? Does it cost more ever to repair one than it does?
I think it does. I mean,
I guess what I'm getting at is we just went through 10 courts. District 4 is a fourth of the size of the city. So you would think if there was one court, for every district, there'd be 6. It would just seem like it just seemed like there'd be more in our district than what there is. And this is the next 10 years. I've had a lot of people requesting that on that far west side of Pawnee Prairie Park, they'd like to see a small pickleball park or something over there. I guess I'm questioning the distribution of such a large city, and we have such a large district, and to only have one project in the works, I guess is.
yeah, we have one thing that I don't have it. I mean, I've got it here. I could show it to you, but we have that condition assessment study that has been done is actually very thorough, and it goes back to the presentation where we talk about how to assess each one of the courts, and that's how we're prioritizing which court gets done next. And it's really based on the condition, on all those different criteria to help us, say, okay, we're basically going from worse to better. But honestly, in tennis, for instance, we're really starting to, I feel like we're really starting to close the gap, because a lot of the tennis courts that we have done over the last 20 some odd years since I've been here has been done with post-tension courts. And once we do those, once we convert to post-tension, those systems that's a 30 to 40 year system. I mean, I put one in, the first one we did was in Buffalo. It was over 20 years ago, and it still looks good.
Yeah. Could you go back to the Parks Department and ask them why we don't have more in our district and why we don't have any planned over the next decade? That's my issue right now, I guess.
With more to the existing or fixing them, Jeff? I'm
trying to fill the gap.
So are you asking why there aren't more courts in your system, or
is there a possibility of adding another court?
Yes, yes.
Just like the one at Pawnee Prairie Park, just like, other areas of the district. I'm just trying to say it's a large chunk of the city, and
right.
I just think we should be able to provide to everybody in the city, a little bit more proportionally than what we are.
Yeah. Rebecca, if you might pull back slides, couple slides. That was the one that was a factor. Another one there. One more, I think. Another one. Where was it? Okay, so right here on this court condition inventory, the last bullet point there at the bottom there was request for new other courts. So it is that is a factor, Jeff.
Okay.
And
I'm telling you, I've probably had 60 emails in the past 2 weeks over pickleball.
Wow.
And I've copied the director of parks on every one of them, and I've responded to every one of them, and I haven't seen anyone from staff respond to any of them. So I want to make sure that staff is listening to the constituents of the city of Wichita.
Now that's really good to know. I didn't realize you had that many. So
yep.
Wow.
Please have a discussion with Troy, because I responded to all of them, and I haven't seen any responses from him.
Okay, that's very good to know. And we know that, I imagine most of it was pickleball, because pickleball really is exploding.
Yep.
And so that's
where it's, and some of them are, some of them are nicely asking, and some of them are telling me, and some of them are very pointed. So
I get it. Thanks for letting me know that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there's no other questions,
This is Rebecca. I do have one question. I guess I'm a little bit, I missed something here because I don't know how the money is being allocated. I understand there was $225,000, and how is it being allocated exactly then?
Yeah, so that's $225,000 per year for the entire city. That's all 6 districts.
Right.
And then what we've been doing is it's kind of a two-pronged approach. We have our assessment study that's actually pretty thorough based on all those different conditions of every court through the system.
So
That's
so
all tennis courts, all basketball courts. And then we rate that and we give it a score. And the highest the score is means that's the worst that it is. And so we kind of work from worst to better. And then on one of the slides here, we showed you the 10 worst. There was 8 basketball courts and 2 tennis courts. And that's the one portion of it. The second part is basically trying to find out what's going on throughout the community at each district, at the district level.
So this year's funding is going where? That's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
Is
right.
it the 3 basketball courts that you mentioned? Those are the things that they're focusing on in 2021?
Correct.
Okay, and so the money will be allocated between the 3 to replace 3 basketball courts this year is the focus.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't answer that very good.
I didn't ask it right. I guess I just wasn't, I didn't see dollars next to, those things. So I didn't know if it was, I didn't know if there was additional stuff in there or if it was just those 3.
No, I mean, if you're looking at, to do a basketball court, they're about $60,000 to $70,000 a piece, depending on what you're doing. And then, that last bullet point there is to, if we have to take out a court and then restore it to green space, it still costs money to do those things. But this is the general plan. That's all determined by how good of bids we get. If we get really good bids, we might be able to do a little bit more. I don't know what the bidding climate is right now with concrete work, but if it gets really competitive, we might be able to squeeze in another project. But this is kind of the safe sort of what we think we'll be able to get based on the money that we have for this year.
Any other questions?
Thanks a lot for the presentation. I appreciate everything you're doing. Just please run it up the chain. If there's any opportunities or any extra money, we'd love to see something more out here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, Larry, you're also going to speak on the Millbrook parking lot there.
Right.
I'm excited about this because you can't drive past it when all the Frisbee golfers are there. So yay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a friend who lives 3 doors down from this, and I just went to lunch with him, and he was real pleased about this item on the agenda and had a lot of questions himself. But as you know, we've recently put in a disc golf course on this site, and it's been very busy, and which is a great thing. It's really activated the park. It's been very successful, but we're having a lot of voices from the community with all the cars that are parking along Taft. It's creating some safety issues, not only from the perspective of people driving. You see this, you kind of have this long curve before you get to this parking lot location that we're looking at. and then anybody that's walking up and down there. So this proposal here is looking at possibly adding a small parking lot, which would be close to the existing shelter and just in the on the east side of the existing backstop for softball. And we think we can get, I think, upwards to, 18, 20 spaces in here. And we want to utilize that existing apron that's already there. We may have to reconfigure that depending on what we need to do, but the idea was to try to reutilize that. I've been having some discussions with engineering on what that needs to be. We may have to change the standard on that, but anyway, long story short, this is kind of just to bring it to the attention, if it isn't already, to the board, that our intentions here are to look at this particular site and hopefully find the funding to pave it. Right now, we're looking at maybe something more temporary for the moment, but we're talking to MABCD about getting some parking here to alleviate all of the strain that's going on with people parking up and down Taft. And my purpose tonight is just to kind of get a sense of what the reaction from the committee here, or the DAB board, would be on doing something this. I think it would be very helpful. Of course, when we do this, we would have to accommodate for ADA. You can see a couple of ADA spots here designed into this concept diagram. But yeah, just to voice it again, we know there's some concern here. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We want to take care of the success of the disc golf community, get them off the street. So when people are driving into the neighborhood, driving by the park, they're not slammed with all these cars that are parking up and down the street. The little area, there's a small little playground. We'll kind of leave that area alone. I think that works pretty nice. Just got a couple spots over there where a family can still park in there and have their kids to utilize the existing playground area and kind of keep it separate from this more active zone. But this is the plan. This is what we'd like to see get accomplished, and kind of like to get a general endorsement of this idea and see if there's any thoughts or input as to what this plan would be.
So just to toss in, when it's warmer, there's softball and soccer practice over there too. So the cars line the streets for that too. So this will also help that area, because it's just past the green blob there on the other side where the backstop is. That'll help a lot too.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's really, I mean, I think this year we're gonna see a real uptick in park use like we did last year when the weather was nice. People are tired of being pent up in their houses, and when the weather gets nice, it's just we're gonna see an explosion of park use. So
that Frisbee golf is used almost year round. We go by when it's freezing cold and there are people out there and the
Yeah.
street is packed. Is there a temporary, I don't know if there's any kind of temporary solution for this for off-street parking at all, or just even more shoulder space for it? And because I'm thinking this is probably what, a year out?
yeah, we're trying to do this probably. You're probably pretty close on that, a year out.
There's no
One
shoulder.
of the issues we have along Taft is that there's kind of a drainage swell. And so it's not quite as easy as just, maybe paving 8 or 9 feet along the side of the road. It would take some site, site grading and redesign work along there to work with that existing drainage swell. But right now, our main focus today or in the near future would be just to kind of help alleviate all the strain that's going on there with Taft. But that's something we can look at maybe a little closer.
Are you proposing it as a concrete or asphalt or gravel or?
Well, right now we have no funding for a parking lot, so to speak. We're hoping to do is getting MABCD to grant us a temporary approval to put a gravel parking lot in there. It would be contingent upon at least having the ADA spot needs to be paved in the drop-off area, but other than that, we would ask that the rest of it could be graveled until we could get secure funding to have it paved.
Okay. And that's a exit for us for bike riding all the time. We go by all the time, and it's getting more and more dangerous to ride or walk along that road for that reason, because there's always cars lined there, always.
Yeah, I was telling you, the friend I went to lunch with last Friday, he was kind of sharing the same thing, that the big thing he's seeing is, car safety, people walking up and down there. But if you're driving down there through there and you have all those cars stacked in there, it's just not a very good situation in terms of safety, car safety.
Positive side, I'm glad to see the Frisbee golf is being utilized and people are using that park for that, and that's exciting too. So that's good.
Yeah, they've been very active in Wichita, and we've gotten some things done with the local disc golf community, because prior to this, we just did Cessna Park about 3 years ago, and so their footprint within the system has gotten bigger, and it's been good because they've been able to utilize some park space that's otherwise been a little less used, and it's really activated the parks. And we love activation because that just solves a lot of issues, even from a crime perspective, and more eyes in the park. It just makes for a better park situation. Any other questions? I think basically I told Rebecca that my main purpose here is just to kind of bring some awareness to this. Not that there wasn't already some awareness, but that this is the intention, is to really start looking at this and see if everyone was in agreement that this would be a good move for the West Meadowbrook Park.
I don't think anybody's going to debate with that, Larry. So thanks for the update. And it sounds like it can't be done soon enough.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're on to zoning cases. So is Phil on with us?
Here I am.
Very
Good.
good.
How are y'all tonight?
Good, thank you. Floor is
Good.
yours.
All right, we got 3 cases to go through. The first 2 are conditional uses. The last one is a zoning case. The first one already went to, which is Con 2021-02. It already went to the Planning Commission on February 18th. So we're nearing the end of the protest period, which will end on Thursday. As a reminder, with conditional uses, if they are not protested, they actually do not have to go to City Council for final approval. Our zoning code allows the Planning Commission to have the authority for approving conditional uses if they are not protested. So if we don't get any protests on this by Thursday, it actually will not be going to council. So what it is a request for a drinking establishment in the Central Business District zoning. The property is located on the south side of Douglas at Walnut. So it's about a block east of Seneca. It's actually where the Coney Island hot dog place was supposed to go, and right next to TJ's. If you guys are familiar with that, on the south side of Douglas, right across from, like, I think it's Taco Tico and Subway. The northeast corner of Douglas and Walnut is Leslie Coffee Company. So that gives you the idea of where this is at. The applicant is requesting the conditional use again to allow a drinking establishment. Drinking establishments are permitted within Central Business District by conditional use. What they're looking at doing is opening what's called the Alvazino Wine Tavern. They provided a narrative as part of the application, and it describes it as a new wine bar concept. The intent to serve wine, beer, and soft drinks with the addition of food. They estimate that the total food sales will comprise about 35%, which then still constitutes them as a drinking establishment. It's not until food sales reach 50% that they can be considered just a restaurant. The restaurant also states that there will be no live music provided. The reason they're needing a conditional use is because this property is within 300 feet of Seneca Park, which is south, about a block south of the location. And our zoning code requires a conditional use for drinking establishments if they're within 300 feet of a park, residential zoning, a church, a school, or like I said, a public park. That's the only reason. You can kind of see on the site plan there, just south of the parking lot. I think it's south of Texas Street is Seneca Park. The applicant indicated also if you go scroll down to the site plan, I think it's a few pages down. There's the zoning map, land use map, and then you go to a site plan. Oh, that's the Delano land use map. There's a site plan. They're intending to have a outdoor patio along Walnut on the east side of the building. Public Works Traffic Engineering requires the use of sidewalk permit, and the applicant is aware of that. There's also supplemental use regulations that govern outdoor seating regarding the need for potentially providing additional restroom facilities if the occupancy outside exceeds 16 persons. It governs the level of noise that can be generated, and really it can exceed what's permitted by the noise ordinance with the city of Wichita. Making sure that any lighting facilities, that they're not interfering with any type of residential use nearby, and that the outdoor use shall be, operated within proper compliance with licensing and regulations and stuff like that for fire and building codes, as well as, there's things related to consumption of alcohol outdoors, of access to that patio, stuff like that. And that's, I believe, more governed by the police department. But anyway, the properties around this, to the north, on the north side of Douglas, there's zone limited industrial and there are fast food restaurants. Properties south of it are general commercial and it's a parking lot. To the east is zone limited commercial and is a tattoo parlor. And on the west side is also limited commercial and is TJ's Burger House. It's also within the Delano Overlay District. And what that means that any significant modifications to the exterior of the building needs to be reviewed and approved by the Delano Design Review Committee. I don't think they're intending on doing any of that. With the exterior patio, there may be some regulations that govern the materials and stuff that they can use to create the exterior bounds of the patio. Basically, as long as you make it look like what the rest of it is in Delano, think of like the Monarch as an example, it's going to work. The site was rezoned to Central Business District in 2015. Staff is recommending approval of this, subject to the conditions that they have to follow the supplemental use regulations for outdoor dining, that it has to, go in front of the Delano Review Committee, as well as for any exterior modifications, and that all permits and necessary rules and regulations apply. And we'll, be reviewing and approving site plans and things of that nature. Findings for our recommendation are the zoning and character of the neighborhood. It's the heart of Delano. Things are zoned central business district. There are many drinking establishments nearby. It's a use that's very fitting and actually can increase the vitality of the area, things that we're looking for. Central business district is what it's zoned, and it can have numerous amounts of uses, and this type of a use with a conditional use is very appropriate for the area. Conformance to the comprehensive plan, the areas identified as being new employment, as well as being in the established central area. This is an area of stability, which doesn't necessarily need a lot of investment, but obviously Delano is growing, and we want to continue to watch it grow with the investments that people want to do, and this is an appropriate use, we feel, even despite its distance to a public park. So with that, really, I will stand for any questions. Planning Commission did vote unanimous approval of it. There was no public comment on it at the Planning Commission. It was actually fairly cut and dry and easy case. And I can stand for any questions you have for me.
Questions from the board on this one? Alrighty. I think I was sold in the first about 10 seconds there, Phil. So I'm looking for a motion from the board.
I move that we accept this.
Second it.
First from Rebecca, second from June. All those in favor say aye.
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 Raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Make sure you make yourself recognized. Okay, motion passes.
Okay, the second one is also conditional use. This one will be going to Planning Commission on March 18th, so coming up here in a couple weeks. It's conditional use 2021-06. It's a conditional use to request a cell tower, 125-foot cell tower for AT&T. Property is located at 1511 West 27th Street South. That's about a quarter mile west of South Seneca and about a half mile north of West 31st Street South. You can kind of see the vicinity map there. The site is in single family residential, and it's the location of Southwest Presbyterian Church. The church is going to be leasing a portion of their land to the cell tower company in order to get this done. Obviously, it's only less than an acre that they're leasing out to the cell company to do this. The Unified Zoning Code identifies areas that we would permit cell towers to be done just by administrative permit. This actually falls outside of those. Most of those are large commercial areas. There is a map in the staff report. If you wanted to see where those areas are, it's towards the bottom. But for all intents and purposes, it's outside of them. That's it. Oh, go up. It's the first one. One more. So in any place that's inside one of these black boxes, they can just apply for administrative permits. This lands outside of that. It's not in one of those handy black boxes. So that's one of the reasons why they have to do a conditional use. The other reason is the Wireless Communication Master Plan. It identifies height guidelines for different zoning classifications. For single family SF5 zoning classifications, if a tower is 65 feet or shorter, it could also be done by administrative permit. An administrative permit doesn't go through a public hearing process. We review it at a staff level and provide, either a yes or a no on whether or not they can have the cell tower there. Because this exceeds that 65-foot height guideline from the Wireless Communication Master Plan, that is requiring the conditional use. It also is within 500 feet of a single family zoned lot. Actually, the entire zoning around it is also single family residential. This means that it has to comply with height compatibility standards that are set forth in the Unified Zoning Code. And what the height compatibility standards say is for every 1 linear foot you are away from a residentially zoned property line, you can go 1 foot in height. So if you're 100 feet away for the tower itself, if you're 100 feet away from the property line, you can have a 100-foot tower. So they're requesting 125-foot tower. Rebecca, if you scroll down, we can probably go to the site plan. Keep going. There you go. So there's the overall site plan of where the compound's going to be in relation to properties around it, also in relation to the church and the church's parking lot. As I said before, all the properties around it are zoned single-family residential. The property line we look for is one that's closest. And where they're putting the tower in the very far bottom right-hand corner of the compound to be as far away from the residential property lines as possible. If you go catty corner kind of to the northwest from the tower, you hit the closest property line, and that's 75 feet away. Therefore, the request is exceeding the compatibility standards by 50 feet. That being said, the conditional use process can waive those height compatibility standards if it's determined that the proposed height of the tower will not detrimentally affect the nearby properties. How this would work is it would be a recommendation by the Planning Commission. If there are no protests on the case, then it would be resolved. If there are protests, then it would go to City Council, and it would have to be part of their decision making to say, yes, we're okay that these compatibility standards are not being met. The lease area of the entire compound is a 70-foot by 70-foot compound. It will have a 20-foot access drive that's actually already existing. It's one of the access drives to the church's parking lot on the south side. It's going to be a monopole structure, which means it doesn't have any guy wires. It's not a lattice structure that you see kind of going up in more of a triangular shape. It's the type of tower that we actually want to see more often because it's less visually obtrusive than the other type of towers. It's going to have they propose a 6-foot fence, solid screening fence around it with, and those circles you see on the site, the more enlarged site plan there are evergreen trees for a landscape buffer, and that actually exceeds the requirement of what the Wichita Landscape Ordinance would require for a use like this. Staff is recommending an 8-foot solid screening fence with those same landscaping standards, just to help diminish the visual impact of the ground level view of the different equipment that's inside. The tower is meant to provide additional cell coverage for the area near South Seneca and West 31st Street. The agent did provide a notarized statement saying that a co-location site was not possible. Co-location is when multiple carriers are on an individual tower. That being said, there's this statute back from 2019 that governs what cities can and cannot do when it comes to governing cell towers. I'm going to hit 5 points that are most applicable to this case. There's actually 18 of them, but really 5 of them are most applicable. The first one is the applicant's design service, customer demand for the quality, and the applicant's service to or from a particular area cannot be evaluated. Basically, unfortunately, we can't say, well, we think you have enough service in the area, the type of service you provide is adequate. If they tell us it's not, then we have to say, okay. Number 2, Rebecca, these are just on page 2 of the staff report, so keep going up, bottom of page 2. There, keep going. Keep going, there you go. Bottom of page 2, I'm on number 2 here. Proprietary, confidential, or other business information cannot be required to justify the need for a new communication structure, including propagation maps or telecommunications traffic study. This is very similar to the first one to say, well, we don't think you need a new tower in this area. You have a tower, a mile away. Number 3 is the availability of the other potential locations for the placement of the communication structure, including but not limited to the option to co-locate instead of constructing a new communication tower. Very similar, we can't say, well, there's a tower half a mile away. Why can't you just stick it on that one instead? Can't do that. Number 4, the type of transmission equipment or technology used by the applicant, including but not limited to requiring an applicant to construct a distribution antenna system or small cell facility instead of constructing a new communication structure. So we can't say, we don't want you to build a tower. Can't you just do small cell stuff, which they often stick on like power poles or light poles or something in the right of way, we can't tell them what type of technology to use. And the fifth one is restrictions with respect to objects in navigable airspace with height limitations, proximity to airports, with markings and lighting communication, basically things in navigable airspace, we let the FAA take care of. We have to trust that the cell tower is also working with the FAA and their standards and getting all of that worked through with the FAA, that we can't say, well, you're too close to an airport, we're going to say no. Really, that's kind of hands off. It's for them to figure out with the FAA. So those are, again, state statutes that say you can't take these into consideration to say, we think your tower is too tall in order to provide your service. You could probably do it with an 85-foot tower. Those are things we can't do in a recommendation. It's either you say yes to their recommendation or no. You can't dictate the design of their service. With this, I reviewed the location of nearby towers that are registered with the FCC. Rebecca, if you scroll down, it's the map after the, it's the second map towards the end of the staff report. The red star is where this location is, and all of these dots on this map are FCC registered towers. Not all towers are registered with the FCC. These are just FCC registered towers. There are 8 towers within a 2-mile radius of this location, with tower ranging in height from 100 feet to 189 feet. The nearest tower is the one to the south of it, that you can see the dot there. It's located at 1785 West 35th Street South. It's between the I-235 highway right-of-way and a residential neighborhood. So if you've been on I-235 near Meridian, between Seneca and Meridian, it's the tower that's on the north side of the interstate. The properties that are north of it are zoned single-family residential. The tower is 189 feet tall. It's located 250 feet from the nearest residential property line, and the compound has no screening, fence, or landscaping buffer from the residential properties. I actually drove it down by it just to see what it looked like, and like if you step out of this person's front door, like you see the tower compound and everything inside of it. So back to the site that and really that's just more for your information of what's kind of around there to get a gauge of like what's cell service like in this area. As I mentioned before, the character of the neighborhood that we're in is single family residential. All the properties surrounding it are zoned that way. So the church property itself, if you want to go to the aerial map, one more down, Rebecca, there you go. This is a really good job of illustrating what the site looks like and where the tower is going to be in relation to, potentially could be in relation to what's the rest of the site. The red box is where the compound is proposed to be. You can see the parking lot, you can see the church building, and the church owns all of that open space to the east. It's 2.6 acres in size. The majority of the site, as you can see, is not developed, either with a parking lot or even that open space. You know, the building actually encompasses just a small portion of the actual overall site. Because of this, there is an opportunity for them to move the compound so that it fits the height compatibility standards of the zoning code. For a 125-foot tower, they would technically need 125 feet from a property line. So there is a mix, and we've kind of had that discussion with them. They would be amenable to doing that if that became an issue. But from a planning point of view, and what staff looked at was alternate locations on the site would either have to be taking a part of the church's parking lot, or if you moved it to where more of the grassy area is on the east side, the compound and the tower actually become more visually prominent on the site. All of a sudden it becomes this kind of focal point in the middle of the site versus being tucked to where it's just more of this remnant piece of ground that's between the access drive to the parking lot and the church building on one part and a property line of a neighboring part, which is also its backyard. You know, where it's at right now actually has the fewest number of front yard views to it versus if you moved it to the east side of the site, again, being more prominent. So as I said, alternate locations would be more detrimental from a visual aspect. We also look at it from the idea of, you know, if the site was ever possibly redeveloped in the future, and this coincides with what the comprehensive plan identifies. The comprehensive plan identifies the site, part of it for residential, part of it commercial. And so if you thought, that there would be some sort of small neighborhood serving commercial development in the future, nothing major, nothing like a limited commercial type thing, but maybe just a small little commercial development. If the church use were to cease, where would you want this tower to be located to best promote redevelopment of the site? And the proposed location would actually be a better location versus moving it to where you have more street frontage occupied or could be potentially occupied by businesses, if that were to ever happen. So again, a different location on the site would potentially be detrimental to possible future redevelopment of the site from the comprehensive plan's point of view. So in light of that, staff is okay with the proposed location of it, even though the height compatibility standards aren't met. We feel like if we moved it to meet the height compatibility standards, it would actually be more detrimental in terms of a visual impact and possible future development than where it is right now. So we talked about the comprehensive plan, what it talks about being partially commercial, partial residential between now and possibly 2035. The site is also located within the Wichita Places for People plan. It's the established central area, which is like the 3-mile ring outside of downtown. It identifies, the area as an area of stability. And areas of stability are those areas that don't need as much investment to continue growing, versus areas of opportunity, you want a lot more strategic investment. Given the overall size of the site that the church owns, there's a possibility of future redevelopment. Again, should the use cease, and again, kind of in light of how do you keep this area stable when if and when future investment wants to happen, where would be the best location for the tower compound? And finally, we talked about the wireless communication master plan that talked about having the opportunity to do administrative permits for towers up to 65 feet. Anything taller than that would need a conditional use, which is why they're seeking this. Overall, staff's conclusion is that the request complies with the overall spirit and intent of the plans, with the idea of needing to, as we go into the future with as much as technology is growing and outpacing everything else, there's going to be a need for expanded wireless service in the city. So we want to honor that, but we also want to honor as best we can the actual siting of where a tower can be. And we feel like this site is very suitable for a cell tower, and we just want to be very strategic in how we massage the details in there to kind of make the best fit.
Was there any opposition?
This has not been heard by Planning Commission yet.
Okay.
And I have not heard any opposition as of yet. So
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
Overall, staff is recommending approval. There's a list of recommendations or a list of conditions of approval on there. I'm not going to go through all of them. A lot of them are very standard language for cell tower locations. I'll just highlight the two that say, it can't be any taller than 125 feet. And we're recommending that 8-foot screening fence instead of the 6 that they provided. So with that, I can stand for any questions that you might have for me. I did reach out to the agent for this. A company called Network Real Estate works with AT&T, and they kind of do all the footwork for them. I gave him the information for tonight's meeting. I don't see him on here. So I can do my best to answer some questions you might have from a planning point of view. I apologize that the agent was not here, even though he was made aware of the meeting. And I'll stop talking now. Sorry, it's a complicated staff report, lots going on.
Any questions for Phil?
No, are there no protests from the neighbors? Are they okay with it?
Again, we very recently advertised it in terms of mailing the notices and all that stuff. So it probably just hasn't hit yet, is my guess. It's still very early on because we have over 2 weeks till the planning commission. This is one of those where with how the dates fell with planning commission, we quickly got a staff report done to this DAB to have it heard before planning commission, because if we waited till April, the protest period would be over, just with how the dates line up with when DABs happen in April versus when the planning commission. It'd be over 2 weeks between planning commission and the DAB in April. So we wanted this heard by the DAB before the protest period instead of after it was over.
So to be clear, the neighbors were not given enough notification to appear before us tonight, or when did these?
They were, they just may not have chosen to log on.
Okay.
We sent the notices out last week, like
Okay.
the midweek, so they should have gotten them in their mailboxes towards the end of the week or over the weekends. So notices were done in time. I can tell you it was one of those like chicken and the egg things of like, do you have the notification early or do you do a DAB that's almost too late?
Well, seeing that as there is no one here to protest, I make a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation.
Yeah, we have a motion to approve from Laura. Is there a second?
Second by Dalton.
Second by Dalton. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Make your opposition known. Okay, motion passes. And
The last one, I promise, is not as complicated. It's fairly straightforward. This is actually not one of my cases I'm presenting on behalf of Matt Williams. We're doing DAB bingo tonight. And it's a rezone case from single family SF5 to limited industrial. It's located at 1515 South Yucca, which is just east of Ike Parkway, south of Kellogg. So kind of in a random little remnant piece of ground where there's still some residential, even though there's a lot of warehouse and other type uses related to the airport in there. There's the aerial that you can see. Again, they're requesting a rezone from SF5 single family to LI limited industrial. The applicant intends to remove the existing home and redevelop the property with a warehouse and a parking lot. Both screening and landscaping requirements are required for the limited industrial zone property when it abuts residential uses. On the north and east side of the property, it's zone limited industrial, so there's no need for any landscaping or screening there. But on the south and west sides, there is single family residential zoning still, and it would need the appropriate screening and landscaping there as well. That's pretty much the gist of what's going on here. I see that Kirk Miller, he's the agent for the applicant on this case. If you have specific questions about what they want to do, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. The comprehensive plan identifies the site as new employment. It encompasses, land that could be redeveloped by 2035 with concentrations of employment, primary in manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, construction, research, technology, business services, and corporate offices. The plan encourages a development pattern that supports the expansion of existing uses in the nearby area. So doing something like a warehousing and stuff like that near the airport is fairly consistent with that. Staff is recommending approval. As we talked about before, there's limited industrial directly abutting it on the north and the east. It could stay single family residential, but with the area that it's in, it's likely that this is going to redevelop more with industrial type uses as well. So it makes more sense to actually kind of move it in that direction. You can see there, all that purple around there is limited industrial zoning. You've got the last several bits of white, that's single family, and then the red is limited commercial. And so this is generally moving more in an industrial or heavy commercial way. And so it makes more sense to move these remnant properties in that direction if they see fit to apply to it. So I really won't go into much more detail, and I'll stand for any questions you have for me.
Questions on this case from the board? If there are no questions, looking for a motion.
I move that we approve this. It seems to fit the direction that this neighborhood is going.
Very good. We have a motion to approve from Rebecca. We have a second.
I'll second it. This is Laura.
And we have a second from Laura. So all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 And opposed, same sign. Make your opposition known. Very good. Motion passes.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Phil. Have a good night. Okay, last item on the agenda, places for people presentation. Mary Hunt, are you on with us?
I never saw her checked in, so I have no idea who. There's no one here to present it. Now, I do know that they had to split everything up tonight, and it could be that she's just running late. But it is after 8 o'clock, so we've been going for an hour and a half. I can run through this real quick if you like. Or everybody, I can send it to you.
That's probably better. Why don't you send it to us? I mean, there's no vote required on it, so it's just receive, comment, and file.
Right.
So I think if you just give it to everybody for us to just review at our leisure. That's
Would that
fine.
be okay if you guys review it and then email Becky or myself any questions or both? And we'll try to make sure we answer any questions on it.
Good.
And Becky, is there any way we can do an email with the whole group? So that it's
Yes.
kind of, since we're not taking a vote.
I'll send this out to all the DAB with instructions to send comments back to you and copy me.
Does that work for everybody?
Sounds great.
Okay, sure.
Okay, well, with that, that one checked off the list. We are on to the board agenda. And updates, issues, snide remarks even, but no. Councilman, would you like to give us an update, please?
Sure. Tomorrow morning, I've got a big day of council meeting. We will be voting on a District 3 interim candidate. Hopefully we can come to a consensus. If not, we'll come back again the next week and we vote again. And I think if we do it a third time and we can't come up with anybody, I think our rules say we have a coin toss, which if it's a three-way tie, I guess we'll have to get a three-sided coin to be able to decide the winner on that. So hopefully we can come up with some kind of agreement on that. We do have tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be reviewing the ethics policy through the National League of Cities. They actually took our ethics policy and are trying to assist us with that and trying to utilize it with some best practices that have been utilized through other parts of the country. So I think they watched our meetings and they looked at all the information in it, all the dysfunction that was in it, and hopefully trying to come up with a plan that we can move forward. So I'm looking forward to hearing their suggestions. So that's about all I have for right now.
Any other hot stuff on the agenda for the rest of the month?
We do have a lot of stuff coming up here. I mean, it's going to be a pretty big time. You know, everybody's coming out of COVID now, so there's a lot of projects that are getting rolled out, and it seems like everything's starting to feel more like 2019 right now than 2020. So that's a good thing. I think we're ready to see that big momentum wheel rolling.
Super. Anyone else on the board have any updates or issues they'd like to bring up?
Hey, I did try to find out about, actually Matt got a hold of me earlier today to ask on behalf of an acquaintance of his if there was going to be neighborhood night out. So I'm waiting to hear back from the police department. Since it's in August, I don't see, fingers crossed that that will definitely be, I can't imagine that there would be any issues with neighborhood night out this year, so.
Was that going to be ran along with National Night Out like we discussed?
Well,
Maybe.
that's what I'm waiting to find out. National Night Out is August 3rd. Traditionally, Neighborhood Night Out is the second Tuesday in August. And so that would not be August 3rd. It would be nice if we did do it on National Night Out. So if not, then I guess our Neighborhood Night Out would be August the 10th. I'm not sure why we've separated from National Night Out.
Yeah, I thought it was the same night.
No, it
I can tell you why they separated, because National Night Out is a national organization and they require a fee be paid.
Oh, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Okay. August 10th.
August 10th.
I will fix that date. So, and actually, ours are always, unless it's raining, held outdoors. So even if we still have little bits of COVID nipping at our heels, we can spread out and it's outside. So should work.
Michael, I want to bring to your attention that the Planning Department Director, Scott Wadle, has just joined us.
Okay.
Scott, do you want to unmute and?
Thank you
Scott,
for that
welcome.
tip. Hello, everyone. All right. I'm wondering, is there a way for me to share my screen, Becky, or do you have the PowerPoint?
Well, I'm gonna have you talk with the chairman real quick about what we had already previously discussed, and then let you
Hey,
guys.
Scott.
You bet.
Scott, we had, because no one was on, we had decided that we just have that emailed to us.
Okay.
And we would provide comments back to the councilman.
Yeah.
And move on from there. So it was getting late for us. We didn't know if anybody was coming, so we already kind of made a plan and moved on.
I totally understand. And yeah, what I'll do is we'll get that to you so you get it out, emailed to you. And then if you have any questions, please let me know. That'd be great.
Okay, appreciate the flexibility. Since no vote was required or whatnot, we just figured it was easier to just comment through that way.
Yeah, sure. You bet. And also, if you'd like me to come out maybe next month, we would have that available too for you, if there are any questions or you want to discuss it further.
Okay, I think after a review, if anybody, if there's a whole lot of commentary and we feel like that's necessary, then we can feed that back through Becky to set that up.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm so sorry I was so late, but quite a bit of conversation. So I do appreciate your flexibility. Thank you.
Not a problem, Scott. Thanks for jumping on, and we took care of it.
Okay, sounds like a deal. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
You bet. Have a great night. Take care.
You too.
All righty. If no one else has anything they care to discuss from the board, then I would entertain a motion to dismiss.
Hey, Chairman, I got one last thing I'd like to bring up.
Yes, sir.
If we're not going to have our meeting room and we're still going to be meeting remotely, I'm going to propose that probably in June or July, that maybe we see if we could have our district advisory board meeting in the skybox out at the stadium.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yes, Councilman.
Becky, let's look into that and see if that would be possible for us to do.
Gladly.
Okay, thank you, guys.
No, that's super idea. It was on my brain, actually. I thought about vocalizing, saying, when Robin brought up the point about the library, I was thinking to myself, gosh, sure, we're gonna have to find someplace else beside the library. And I'm not trying to push Robin out of the way, but if there's no
Even if there's not a game, I think it'd be fun if we could get in there and do it in there.
No, for sure. I totally agree. Just be able to see each other and socialize again would sure be great. But anyway, we gotta keep moving forward. If we can find a way to get together and start doing these again, that'd be great.
Maybe we can meet at that new wine tavern.
Yes, I second that motion. Yeah, Phil spent an awful long time selling us on a wine bar, and I'm like, you had us in the first 10 seconds. At wine bar.
You said wine. Well, good luck tomorrow, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Have fun with those ethics.
Yeah. I was thinking of the morning meeting.
Oh, yes.
You'll wear a helmet tomorrow, Councilman.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
You're doing great. Hang in there.
All right.
Hey,
is that-
guys.
do you have a motion to dismiss?
I'll make a motion.
Oh,
This is
Matt
Matt.
with the motion to dismiss. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Laura with a resounding sure. All those in
Sure.
favor say sure.
Yes.
Both same sign. I don't think there's any. And everyone have a great evening. Thank you so
Guys.
much for participating. I tried to move it along as best I could. Have a good night.
Have a great March. Enjoy this weather, guys.
Yes.
For sure.
Enjoy your calf.
Lots of babies.
Wait, you have happy, you have.
Yeah. Moony, happy, and sunny. So I don't know what the next
Aw.
one's gonna be. Windy, probably. Bye, guys.
Bye.